everyone, and welcome back to the Fantasy Fellowship Fandom discussion. This is episode 1, part 2 of the Game of Thrones TV shows. Just like to quickly welcome back myself, Louise, Damian, Tom, Sarah, and Nessa, where we are going to be talking more about the Game of Thrones TV shows. If you missed out on episode 1, part 1, you can find it in the link in our description or on our YouTube channel.
Where were we?
Well, can I talk to you about what my experience was watching the Red Wedding, not knowing it was coming?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
So it was like afternoon. I'll paint the scene for you. Afternoon, fucking like pissing down rain outside. I'm just like sat in the afternoon. The kids are out. Like I'm enjoying the day to myself. So I'm obviously like still. I think what season was Red Wedding?
Season 3, episode 9.
Was it 3? Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was still binge watching at this point, and like I was very much Team Rob because fucking Richard Madden is fit as fuck. I really hated Jon Snow. And like I could not fucking believe what was happening, and like I just was like sat there in this room like jaw to the floor, like on my knees, like could not get over it. And then I just kept rewinding it because I just like could not get my head around the fact that had happened. And then I literally had to like go through my fucking, because I was on Facebook at the time, like everyone on there that talked about Game of Thrones and like messaged them like, did that just fucking happen? It was like insane. It was the best TV moment that I've ever seen in my life, but like awesome as well.
Yeah, it was awesome. As someone who read the books, like I read the books before that come out, and I remember reading that part, and it's just it comes upon you so suddenly in the books. Like there's no build up to it. Like all of a sudden they're all at the wedding, everyone's feasting, the band's playing. All of a sudden it's Catelyn's point of view, the chapter, and you see all of a sudden Catelyn looks around, someone's been stabbed and thrown to the floor, one table's got thrown over, there's archers, and it's just like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? And it's just like the great John's just got his arm sliced off, and then all of a sudden Roose Bolton's gone up to Rob and stabbed him and said Jaime Lannister sends his regards. They changed it.
Oh god, it was so good.
Yeah, and then you've got Arya's point of view seeing him with that as well. So Arya's outside with the Hound at the time, and it makes you think that the Hound has killed Arya because she's running off to try and get into River Run as the gates are closed, and she mentions about the Hound's running behind her on the horse, and then she says about how the axe hits her head and now everything just went dark, and you think, oh fuck, has the Hound just killed Arya there? And
wow, it was, what, like how far through the book is that? Like towards the end, in the middle?
No, I think it's like halfway through the first.
Yeah, it's only about 40% of the way through because season 1 is book 1, season 2 is book 2, but then book 3 is a lot longer. So book 3 is actually season 3 and 4.
Okay.
So and it happens towards the end, like season 3, episode 9. And it's so it's towards the end of season 3, but because of the book, it's near the end of the first, because the third book is split into 3 parts. So it's like the end of the first part of book 3. But yeah, it's only like halfway through the book as a whole, and then the Red Wedding is actually very soon afterwards as well, and that isn't like towards the end of the book either.
But
so both of the.
Sorry, I just wanted to say I love how in the show they gave a little subtle hint, like what's going to happen when
with the Rains of Castamere.
Rains of Castamere, yeah.
Yeah, with the Rains of Castamere, and then when Talisa, Rob's wife, kind of says the child will be named Ned, and we're all kind of like, we know how this will end.
Yeah, and then Catelyn is sat there with Roose Bolton, isn't she? And she sort of
she lifts his
chainmail there.
Yeah,
and then she slaps him, and he runs off. But
that slap was pretty great too, though.
It was, and just. Like a lot of what happens in the show, that episode doesn't actually happen in the books, and it's a really good change. Like I can't remember if it happened. I don't think it does. You know, when Catelyn grabs Walder Frey's wife, and she says, "Let Rob go, or I'll slice her from ear to ear," and then he says, "I'll find another one." Then I'm not sure if that happens in the book or not.
From my recollection, I think it did, but it's been a few years. It's been like 3 years since I read the book, so I can't remember certain.
It almost like makes me angry in a way though that like they managed to pull that off in such like a fucking phenomenal way. And they like did these scenes like so well, like the purple wedding as well. That was fucking brilliant. Just like seeing Joffrey finally get his.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
That was very satisfying.
Pardon?
It was very satisfying.
So it was so good. Yeah, because was that the season after or?
Yeah, that's season 4, episode 2. So there's only
very
2 whole episodes between the 2 events.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the fact that they did all of that so well kind of makes me more bitter that they fucked up the ending so bad, because they obviously could do this shit, but then I suppose they had the source material there, didn't they?
They did, but the thing is as well is HBO did offer the guys Benioff and Wise, whatever they're called, they did offer them, like I think they offered them 2 more seasons with like 15 episodes or something each season. And they said, no, we can get it done in 1 more season in like 6 episodes or whatever, because they got hired by Disney.
Yeah, well, originally, they'd signed contracts for 7 seasons, not 8. And that's actually the reason why season 7 and 8 have fewer episodes. Like seasons 1 through 6 always have 10 episodes, and then season 7 has 7 episodes, and season 8 has 6. It's because they actually were going to do 7 instead of 8, and then they extended that last season to 2 seasons.
Oh, okay.
But so it was going to be shorter, but George originally wanted 13, and then he went down to 10 seasons. But we got 8, so George wanted it to be a lot longer.
He did, yeah.
Right. So who's the better villain, Joffrey or Ramsay?
Ramsay,
yeah.
Ramsay scares the shit
and
out of
Show
me.
Ramsay are very different, but I like Show Ramsay probably better actually, because I really like Ewan Rion's I think he's
amazing.
A charismatic villain. Yeah.
And like the scenes with Reek were fucking so disturbing, but he did such a good job.
And that's it, because as you just said, Tom, they're very different, because in the books he's very unattractive, he's overweight, he's just not a very attractive. Yeah, he's not a very attractive man.
He's described as having very pale hair, and he has kind of like fucked teeth and skin, and
describe his lips as like bulbous worms.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they say they're like worms, and he looks very unnerving as well, as the kind of thing. But like Ewan Rion's quite an attractive guy, so that kind of doesn't have the same impact of like his appearance.
Yeah.
But they are very different characters, Ramsay and Joffrey. Like, don't get me wrong, Joffrey's an absolute dick. He is a dick. But I don't think Joffrey's pure evil. Like, Ramsay's pure sadistic evil. I think Joffrey's sort of
Joffrey's upbringing, isn't he?
Joffrey's got like a weird upbringing. He's very insecure, and he'll think he just tries to like match up to his dad and his mum and Tywin's legacy. Well, his dad's, obviously people who he believes to be Robert, but I wouldn't say he's just a dick, isn't he? He's messed up in the head, but I wouldn't say he's outright callous evil in the same way that Ramsay is. Like, Ramsay feeds Theon his cock, doesn't he, and shit like that.
Although
he doesn't actually feed it to him, he just teases him.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. In the book though, he only got his fingers and toes and teeth removed. He didn't actually lose his cock, but the show wanted to make it a bit more gruesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sarah, you were saying?
No, just that like I quite often do these Game of Thrones this or that's on Instagram, and every time I put those two against each other, Joffrey gets more votes for being the worst.
Oh wow. That's
I think the one thing that makes me still I think if I had to pick, I'd probably go Ramsay being worse, but the thing that makes me not like that makes that a more difficult decision is that scene where Tyrion gives Joffrey 2 whores, and instead of using them for their intended purpose, he just makes them mutilate each other.
Yeah,
like that is hella sadistic.
I think like we spend longer with Joffrey as well, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
So we have
do.
like longer to hate him. But like fucking this is the best thing about Game of Thrones is like the villains are just absolutely amazing. And there's so many people that you fucking despise and they just do it so well. Like there's like so many characters in Game of Thrones that just more than any other like show or book series like that I'm so invested in. Like I don't think I actually like any characters in Game of Thrones. Can't think of any that I'd want to like hang out with. But I'm like so fucking invested in all of them, and the villains are just done so well. And like Cersei is just the best character ever. I love her.
Cersei.
I'll say that characters to hang out with. I'd love to hang out with Tormund. I think he'd be like the best drinking companion. Yeah.
Tormund, yeah, maybe Davos as well.
Yeah, Davos is great.
No.
Do you not like Davos?
I like Davos.
I don't know. I just find him annoying. I mean, Jamie, I'd like to climb like a tree.
All right.
Genuinely can't remember any others.
Yeah.
Rob, obviously.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't
The Hound's great.
Yeah.
I'd hang out with the Hound.
Yeah, the
Bron.
Hound's great, but would I want to hang out with him? Would I like? Oh, and we also need to talk about the Mountain and the Viper because what a fucking episode!
Do
And probably like the best episode of the later seasons.
you reckon? I would say Battle of the Bastards for me, but
that one as well.
That one is up there, and that made his career, didn't it? The guy who played him, Pedro Pascal, because ever since he's done that,
he's done everything.
Mandalorian, doing The Last of Us, Narcos. That made his career. But yeah, Sarah, great shout because that was spectacular.
I think he was phenomenal as Oberyn though. Like the charisma he brought to that role was like
so much charisma, such a good character. So had that happened in the book?
It did, yeah.
It did, yeah.
It was like pretty much spot on the same as well.
Yeah, he really brought that character to life though. Like the initial scene where he's in Littlefinger's brothel, just the charisma that he brings to the character is phenomenal. Like, I think that's like one of the best like one scene performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're so invested in him.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one thing that I think Game of Thrones has probably done the best that I've ever seen is just like nailing the casting.
Yeah. It's like, oh shit, there's this amazing character that like finally I can get on board with that I really like. A couple of episodes later, his fucking eyes are gouged out.
There's a few things about the Viper that I'd like to mention later on when we talk about the theories. But he's excellent. And one of my favourite scenes from the show with the Viper actually was when he volunteers to be Tyrion's trial by combat, because you get that in the book, but you don't get it as much as in depth as you do in the show. And it just, what I really like about that scene is it highlights really well like Tyrion's relationship with not just Cersei but Jaime as well, because he says, doesn't he? He says when me and my sister Eddie of Dawn, we first come to Casterly Rock when we were young, and all we heard about was this that the Lady of Casterly Rock gave birth to this demon child who was obviously Tyrion. So we really wanted to see him, and so we come to see him, and all Cersei would do whilst they were seeing at the time, Cersei was torturing him, like pinching his cock and like making him cry.
Yeah, she tried. The quote is pulled it so hard that he thought she would pull it off.
And she says, I hate him because he killed my mother and I want him to suffer. And Jaime's the one who stops her from doing it, and that's very like indicative of Jaime and Tyrion's relationship, which is something I'd like to get into later on as well. And
then obviously there's the Cersei stuff with the High Sparrow, like that was so well done as well. That
was really well done, and that was something that happened in the books as well, which was pretty faithful. But with Cersei, Cersei in the books, she's very stupid, and
is she?
Yeah, she's not as smart as she thinks she is, and everyone around her is playing her, and that's one of the best bits about her point of view chapters is she's pretty stupid and she thinks she's clever, but she's not. But everyone around her is making a fool out of her. But
she's pretty impulsive sometimes. I think most of her bad decisions is because she's impulsive.
Yeah, I kind of think I don't view her as as stupid so much as like out of touch, delusional. I think her perception of reality is a bit different from how reality, you know, actually is in everyone else's perception. And she really truly believes like the truth is what you make it, rather than, you know, objective truth. Yeah, so I think that's how I view her anyway. Like, not so much as stupid as like believing her. Like, she believes her own lies all the time.
Yeah, that's definitely accurate. Whereas in the show, she's a lot more competent in the show, isn't she? I think.
Yeah.
But she's played by a fantastic actress in the show, and
what a performance.
And obviously, I don't think she's going to last as long as she does in the books as she did in the show. But that's something we're going to get to later on with the theories as well. But as we close up this episode, we've gone on this one for quite a while, to be fair, which is good.
Season 8,
yeah, because we haven't really discussed it. So season 8 is quite a big one, I think.
I think, like, on the subject of Cersei, the thing that I'm most gutted about still from season 8 is that Jaime didn't finish her off.
Yeah, that's what
the
everyone
Valonqar
thought
prophecy
in the books.
That's what, sorry?
Yeah.
That's what everyone thought was going to happen in the books, and Jaime is going to be the one to kill her.
But I just don't know how that did not happen. It was just would have been so perfect for both of their characters.
The Valonqar prophecy. Are you guys all familiar with that one?
Go on, tell us again.
So in I think it's like season 5, episode 1 or something like that. We actually get a flashback from Cersei as a child, where her and a friend go into a tent of a woods witch called Maggie the Frog. Yeah. And she sees a prophecy, and the woods witch tells her a prophecy of different things about how her children will die. And she asks, will I marry the prince? And then they say, you'll marry the king, because at the time she was actually betrothed to Rhaegar, but she didn't marry him in the end. And then the prophecy was about the Valonqar, which means little brother. So the prophecy was that she would be murdered by her little brother. And the obvious interpretation of that is Tyrion, because she hates Tyrion, and Tyrion's her little brother. But as like a lot of eagle-eyed fans pointed out, her and Jaime are twins, but she actually came out of the womb first. So technically Jaime's her little brother. So a lot of people think that Jaime would be the one to kill her, not Tyrion.
Yeah, and
interesting.
With his golden hand, I believe a lot of people thought he was going to kill her with that, with the using the throttle her with the golden hand that he has.
I hadn't heard of that, but I think it would make sense because in the book, when Tyrion murders Shay, he strangles her with a necklace made of golden hands.
Yeah.
So I think that would be like kind of like a poetic symbolism there, where like he kills his lover who betrayed him with golden hands, and then Jaime does like the same thing.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of like cool symbolism there.
In contrast to what Sarah said though about how she doesn't, it made her, angry that the Jaime wasn't the one to off Cersei, and I definitely believe that he should have done. I was infuriated by it myself, because he was, at that point, Jaime was my favourite character of all time in anything, and that's how I saw his story going. And but one way I did sort of look at it, and it's quite accurate as well, is that it's sort of like Stockholm syndrome. It's a toxic relationship that no matter how much he tried to get away from it, he couldn't help but be sucked back into it each time. And it's quite fateful to life, because you do get those toxic relationships where people try to leave, but no matter what, they can't do it. And he realised how bad Cersei was for him. Like, as when he left Brienne at Winterfell, and he said, I sieged River Run for Cersei. I pushed a boy out of a tower window for Cersei. I would kill every man, woman, and child in my way just to make it back to Cersei. She's hateful, but so am I. And I think a lot of people saw that moment as, right, he realised the problem. He's going to go back now. He's going to kill her. But I think at that point, instead, that was him realising, I can't escape her. No matter what I do, I can't. No matter how good I want to be, no matter how much I want to be apart from her, I can't. And
that's fucking heartbreaking, isn't it?
That's what I think. I think as at the time, whilst I was really annoyed by it, and I was just like, what the fuck, there are other ways Jamie's character got ruined in season 8. I'll get into that. But in that situation, I think you can sort of give the show writers leeway. I do see that as sort of, no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't escape from that toxic, vicious cycle with her. And I think that plays into the tragedy, especially with Brienne writing in the Kingsguard book, with because there's a point in the Feast of Crows book that Jamie really wants to have noteworthy deeds written in the book after him, because all the other Lord Commanders do, but he doesn't. And when she writes and she says he sieged River Run without any casualties, he defied him.
I thought it was a very powerful moment, actually. I was like,
and the final bit of him saying he died protecting his queen.
Yeah,
he's the Kingslayer, but he gave his life to defend the Queen as well. I thought everything just came.
The fact that he went back to Cersei instead of being with Brienne, but I thought it made sense, like you were saying, because it kind of like rings true of like how humans aren't perfect, and it's just like I think for him Cersei's an addiction, and so I kind of like that he went back to her, but I just kind of wish it was a bit more of an epic way to go out than like the building falling down on him.
Yeah, for both of them, I think.
Yeah.
They both deserve more.
Yeah, and what I was really worried about before that happened was he had that duel with the terrible version of Euron Greyjoy, who should have been the best villain ever.
I love book version and book show version.
Incredible. But show version is terrible, and like the moment he stabbed Jamie in the show, and then Jamie obviously killed him, but as he ran off, Euron shouts after him, "But I got you. I'm the man who killed Jamie Lannister." I thought, fuck, Jamie's going to give out like bloodlust on the way to Cersei, isn't he? Euron Greyjoy is going to be the one who fucking killed Jamie Lannister. And yeah, but I do think it came full circle with Jamie. It's a very tragic end for him. He, like you said, it's an addiction. He couldn't get away from her. No matter how much he tried, no matter how he wanted to, he just couldn't give it up.
Yeah, definitely. Back to like season 8 faults. So personally, I'm actually a bit of a season 8 defender, actually, which is a very unpopular opinion. I don't think it was like great or anything. Like I don't think it was as good as the other seasons, but I also think that it gets a little bit harder rap than it deserves. Especially because I just rewatched it. I've only I've seen the early seasons like God knows how many times, like dozens. But I've seen this season 8 only twice, like when it first came out and then a week ago. But like, yeah, really, I think especially on the rewatch, I'm like, this gets a harder rap than it deserves, I think.
I think it's still. A lot of people were disappointed by it.
Yeah, well, I think
it's mostly that. I don't think it's bad per se. I just think that people had different expectations and they didn't get what they wanted.
Yeah.
They are disappointed, and that's it. Like, we're never going to watch that show again.
I still think it's like a 8 or 9 out of 10, though, not like a 4, like a lot of people are giving it.
Yeah, Tom, I agree with you. It's not a 4. It's for TV entertainment wise, it's really good. Just they fucked it up, didn't they, in terms of character.
I'd absolutely love you to try and change my mind, because I honestly cannot think like of one thing that I liked about it, one storyline, like fucking Daenerys that you've like rooted for 7 seasons, and then it's absolutely right.
Yeah,
Sarah,
we'll get to that, but yeah, I think Damian agrees with me on this one, but I think it was always going to happen that way. Like I think because you got to remember that it's a show based on the book, and I think that that's where the books are going towards. So I don't think the issue with Daenerys's plotline in particular, I don't think the issue is that she, went crazy and killed everyone. I think the issue is how that happened, not that it happened. I think it should have been a bit more like set up a bit more. I think they went for shock value a little bit more than they should have. But there was definitely a lot of signs. Like if you rewatch, you'll see that there's a lot more signs than probably you picked up.
I have tried to like watch these videos though that have they've summed up all the signs of Daenerys fucking turning mad. I don't see it. like watched all the clips that they've mashed
Like,
together. I'm not buying it.
you rewatch from like, you know, because I've just rewatched the whole series. Like there's the signs a lot earlier as well. There's a lot like in season 8, but I think like, yeah, just I think the showrunners had some foreshadowing, but they also valued like shock value more than, I guess, good writing, like of, you know, setting it up a lot in advance. But yeah, I think that's always where George Martin had intended to go with the character.
Do you think that he intended for? Sorry, go on, Nessa.
No, I just wanted to say I don't think that Daenerys will ever lose her mind in the books. It's just not how I see the character, and you have to keep in mind that she was 14 at the start of Game of Thrones, and at the Dance with Dragons, where we are now in the book, she's 16. I mean, she's a teenager, she's young, but I don't particularly see her as mad like her father. I think she's just inexperienced and a teenager, but not really mad.
I think that's a very interesting take, and I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit more in later on.
How about Bran?
Bran,
literally the worst character.
Yeah.
Everyone hates Bran, don't they?
Bran is
Oh, what?
I like
Come on, Nessa, defend Bran to me. Come on.
I think it's an interesting choice what they did in the show. Not something I think George will do in the book, but it's definitely an interesting choice. And you've out of all the people, he's actually a good choice for a king, especially when you count his abilities as a Green Walker. Like he can eat things, but can he prevent them? Yes, maybe, but it's an interesting choice for a king out of all the people who are left living in the end of season 8. So that was a really interesting choice. I kind of like that choice. I like Bran Stark as a king.
Wow. That is a hot take.
It's a hot
I disagree there. I actually think that Bran might actually end up on the throne at the end.
Yep.
For the simple reason of why else would they do it in the show? I actually think because what happened with the later seasons, obviously there's no books to go off of, but George sat down with Dan and Dave. He sat down with them for like 12 hours or 15 hours or something like that, and he gave them a lot of like more dot points than like actually, you know, written chapters of what's going to happen. And he gave them a bunch of dot points of things that are going to happen. And I actually think this is one of the dot points. I think though that like he told them that the Bran was going to end on the throne at the end of the series, but he didn't tell them like how or why. And I think that's kind of why things got a bit butchered with Bran, because that's one of my like, I think there's two big egregious mistakes in season 8. And I think the first one is Bran ending on the throne. I think the other one's Arya killing the Night King, which we can get into in a minute. But I kind of think that that's like one of the dot points he gave them, but they just didn't know how to execute it properly.
Yeah. Who do you think should have been on the throne then?
Well, I think Tyrion.
Well, yeah.
Because in the show, literally, he just says like, "Oh, nah, no one would want the imp, and I supported Daenerys, so I can't be." And then, you know, goes along. But either Tyrion or like Jon, if Jon wanted it. Obviously, he didn't want it. But like also the thing with Jon's character is that he never wanted power.
Yeah.
But saw it as his duty, and I think that's like part of what makes a good king in the first place. But so I kind of feel like, I kind of felt like it wasn't true to Jon's character to, not that season 8 even gave him a choice because they banished him to the wall, but would have like rejected it. But I kind of feel like it wasn't quite true to his character. I feel like he would accept it as his duty, as something that he has to do but doesn't want to do.
But would he, like, considering the thing that he is a bastard child and all of his...
He's not, though.
Yeah, but everyone thinks of him that he's a bastard, and, like,
Yeah,
all of his
I know now he's not.
emotions are focused on that. Like, in the beginning, like, he's so focused on it that he's a bastard child of... And I don't think he ever sort of made peace with that fact, like that the world has seen him for so long as a bastard child, and I think that's still kind of in him, and that he feels that he isn't worthy for some of those titles. I don't know. That's just how I've always seen him as a character. That this is something that is dragging him, that he always thinks he's unworthy.
Yeah. Louise, as you were like me and hadn't read the books, what did you think of the ending?
Thought it was lazy writing. They could have done so many things with so many different people, and I just thought it was absolute bullshit.
Who was your favourite character?
Oh, Jesus. I don't think I have a favourite one.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Like, I did like Harry until the last season. I did like Sansa up until the last season. I actually did like Jamie as well, but again, I do think they ruined him. I think he should have killed Cersei, and I think he either should have got like maybe a redemption arc, or someone should have killed him.
Yeah.
But I think letting them both die together was just pure laziness.
Yeah. It's like I wanted Jamie to have the throne, but I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like the sort of like the general story started with, if you've read the books anyway, that Jamie sat on the Iron Throne and he waited to see who would come to claim it, and Ned Stark came first, but Ned Stark didn't claim it. So Robert Baratheon came, and Robert Baratheon claimed it instead. So one of my like little theories that I was sort of hoping for was that Jamie was going to kill Cersei or whoever, and then the series would end with Jamie sat on the Iron Throne and he would wait to see who would come to claim it again.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah, and but it's the thing with Jamie, because I love him so much. But another thing, apart from the Cersei thing, is when he's a prisoner of Daenerys in season 8, and Tyrion frees him, and then Tyrion saying to him, like, "Listen, I need you to help me, save the people of King's Landing." And Jamie turns around and he says to Tyrion, "To be honest with you, Tyrion, I never really cared about the people of King's Landing." And that was the one line that destroyed his character for me, because he is the Kingslayer, because he Aerys Targaryen, because he didn't want Aerys Targaryen to fucking burn alive the people of King's Landing. And like, it's been like an internal trauma for him for years that people revile him because he's the Kingslayer. He was the Lord Commander, even though, sorry, he wasn't the Lord Commander, but he was one of the Kingsguards, and he went against his sacred oath to betray his king. But he'd done that for really reasons only known to him. That he'd done that for pretty noble reasons, because Aerys was a piece of shit and he was going to burn King's Landing alive with wildfire, and that's why Jamie done it. And it's been a real big thing for him.
Yeah.
His honor. And yeah, that's just the one thing that, because he did care about people with King's Landing. So for him to turn around and say that in season 8, yeah, it's not something I'm really keen on. But
that line, when I was rewatching, stood out to me for exactly the reasons you're saying. Like, I really like paid attention to that when I was watching, when I was rewatching, and yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's just that that is the one thing that destroyed his character for me. But in regards to the whole Bran sitting the throne thing, I'm just going to get into it now, because it's just such an interesting thing to talk about. I, like you, Tom, I do think that Bran is going to sit the Iron Throne at the end, and I think it's not going to happen in the way it is in the show at all. So obviously we know that he's been training with the Three-Eyed Raven in the show and in the books as well. So anyway, the Three-Eyed Raven in the books is a man named Brynden Rivers, who is a Targaryen bastard, who is brother to one of the kings back in the day, one of the Targaryen kings. His name's Bloodraven. And yeah, and he gets sent to the Wall, and he becomes the Lord Commander of the Wall, the Night's Watch. and eventually he makes his way north and he becomes what is the Three-Eyed Raven. And he's always sort of been bitter that he was a bastard and he wasn't king. So
I don't think he was
really.
Yeah, I don't think
No. It was
he supported his brother
on the
to
good
become
king.
and when he was king of he was the hand for several kings, and I think he was Arian, who he basically was king when Arian was king, because he was very late, like he was a backseat king and he basically ruled for him. So I think that's what he wanted. He didn't care about like sitting the throne. He cared about like running the realm.
Yeah. And so I've completely messed that up. But yeah, my general consensus is that everything that Bran, or so to speak, Bloodraven, who is the Three-Eyed Raven, has done at that point is to manipulate Bran to come north, to help him defeat the White Walkers, but to also claim the throne for himself. I don't think that the Bran that we see after the killing is actually Bran. I believe that is Bloodraven using Bran's body.
Interesting.
And he even says at one point, he says, "I'm no longer Brandon Stark. I'm something else now." And I think and when they ask him to be king at the end of season 8, he says, "Why do you think I came all this way?"
Mm.
And in support of that, there's in the book, do you recall the prologue of Varamir Six Skins?
Yeah.
They show you, this is before Bran ever walks into Hodor, and they show you that the whole point, it's just like 20-page chapter, but basically the whole point of it is to show you that warging into a person is possible, and it's considered among wargs to be an abomination and like a terrible, terrible, horrible thing to do, like worse than murder. And then Bran does it to Hodor, and I think like some think it's kind of like fitting that Bloodraven might do it to Bran. And because
Bloodraven hold the door.
Hold the door.
I think Bloodraven's like 127 or something like that.
Yeah.
So he just takes like, a young guy's body so he can live longer, because he's also stuck in the tree. Like the only reason he's lived so long is because he's like become part of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
But taking Bran's body, he could like
he can fully move away, explore and go elsewhere. Then
I think just based on the books, I don't see it. Just based on the books that I've read, because there's a point in the books where we kind of figure out who the Three-Eyed Raven is, and he says that he isn't what he once was, but his mother, when he had him, she called him Bryden, and that he had a brother who he loved and brother who he hated, and a sister who he loved. Or a woman, sorry, he doesn't mention his sister.
Yeah, she is his sister.
And I think when he's speaking about that, he's very distant, like he's not even there. He's more of a tree now than he is a person. And I don't see his interest into becoming a person or having a living person's body. It's not something that I see from the books, because I see Bryden very distant now.
Yeah,
but one thing I'll say though that kind of it doesn't contradict that, but I think it also supports the theory that Damian suggested, is that many things that Bloodraven did back before all of this, back before he was a Three-Eyed Raven, back before he was Lord Commander, when he was in King's Landing and was the Hand, he did a lot of things that were like terrible, but for the greater good. Like there were bad acts, but they were for the greater good. So he really he has no problem with doing things that are terrible, immoral, but that at least in his mind serve the greater good. And I think like that kind of shows that he might not, if he did walk into Bran and take over Bran's body, he would, if he thought that was for the greater good, he would do it.
Yeah, I agree. He would do it. I just at this point I don't see it, but maybe. It will be shown, or maybe it won't. Who knows? George might change his mind.
I think this is the most special thing about Game of Thrones, though. Like all of this theorizing and like everyone having different fucking ideas about what's going on, and like that's been the most fun over the last few years. Like fucking R plus L equals J.
Oh,
It was
so many
just
others.
yeah.
So good.
But I guess we should probably move on to the next thing now.
Thank you so much to everyone that was listening. This was episode 1, part 2 of the Game of Thrones fandom discussion, where we were talking about the TV shows. Just like to say that we also have a community Discord where we talk about Game of Thrones. You can find more information about that on our Instagram, which is at fantasy_fellowship. On Twitter, we are at fanfellowship, and we also have a website, which is www.fantasy-fellowship.co.uk. If you enjoyed this fandom discussion episode, be sure to hit like and catch the next episode, as well as keep up to date with more Fantasy Fellowship videos, and you can do that by hitting the subscribe button. On the next episode, we are going to be talking about theories and books within the Game of Thrones world.